Welcome to Matthew chapter 25, verses 1 to 13, the parable of the 10 virgins. The number that we will be featuring in this video is number 2513, Vigilant, and we will continue highlighting the verbs in purple. You can look these up in the analytical lexicon, and it will give you more information on each one. It begins in verse 1. Tote homotheisete e vasilia ton oranon deca parthenes. Then the kingdom of the heavens shall be likened to 10 virgins. Parthenes is a virgin. The Parthenon in Greece is built for Diana, the virgin. And it's a word that has been tried to change it to where Jesus was born. Jews try to make it a young woman, but you can't do that in the Greek. It's Parthenos, it's a virgin, and there are many places it talks about virgins, and they have not had relations with men. So the kingdom of heaven is likened to 10 virgins. Now, that's a figure of speech. It's what's following here is all about what is entailed in being a Christian. It says, then Atenes lavuse tas lampadas avton, who, having taken their lamps, exilthon is apantisen to nymphiu, went forth to meet the groom. Now the underlined words are participles, which are verbal adjectives. So we have these 10 young women who are going to a marriage feast or feasts, and they have gone forth to meet the groom as he's coming to the wedding feast. And it says, Pente they ison ex avton phronimi, and 5 from out of them were practical. They thought about their actions and they prepared for what is going to come. And it says Ka pente more, and the 5 moronic. Now that's not the morons that we talk about today. Somebody's a moron. A moronic is somebody that's the opposite of being practical, not thinking about the things, what is going to happen, living for the day, partying, just doing whatever they want to do that keeps them from doing what they should be doing. And then in verse 3, Atenes more lavuse tas lampadas avton uk elavon met the avton eleon. And the ones moronic, having taken their lamps, did not take oil with themselves. Now, exactly how this happens as nighttime, apparently, the place that they are going and they're waiting with their lamps. But the moronic didn't take enough oil for their lampadas. It says, but in verse 4, they phronimi elavon eleon entis angiis avton. But the practical took oil in their receptacles. They prepared for the groom to come and had enough flame and oil to last when he did arrive. Otherwise, it would go out and they wouldn't see anything. Now, the virgins, I believe, are the believers. And you have some believers who are very practical and prepare, and this is what all Jesus is talking about here. And you have other believers who are not practical and don't do what Jesus says, even though they believe in Jesus. And the groom is, of course, I think, Jesus. So the practical are doing what Jesus wants for us to be prepared. The moronic Or like in the last section, the evil men that beat the servants and were drunk and did all sorts of things. And the not taking oil is basically a figure for not being prepared. And then in verse 5, chronizontas they to nymphiu, but the groom passing time, and that is a long time between Jesus is telling the disciples what's going to happen to when he returns, the long time. So this is, here it's only in a few hours, but in the meaning of the parable, it's thousands of years. And then it continues, Enistaksan pase ke ekathavthon, and they all slumbered and slept. So apparently he's waiting. It's going to be late at night before he comes. Mesis they niktos kravgi gegonen, and in the middle of the night a cry came. Idu, behold, O nymphios erkate, the groom comes. Exercus they is apantis and afton, go forth to meet him. Verse 7, tote gerthisan pase a partheni akini, and then arose all of those versions, the 10. Ke ekos misan tas lampadas afton, and they trimmed their lamps. I guess that means getting it ready and lighting it. In verse 8, they more tes phronimis epon, and the moronic said to the practical, dote imin ek to eleo imon, give to us from out of your oil. Oti e lampadas imon sevenite. Our oil lamps are extinguishing. They're running out of oil. Apokrithi son they ephronimi, and the practical answered, leguse, saying, mipote, no, lest at any time uk arkesi imin ke imin. No, lest at any time it should not be sufficient to us and to you. We'll all be in the dark, basically. Parevis they malon prostus poluntas, but you go rather to the ones selling. Ke agorasate iav tis. Go out on your own and do your thing. Don't shake us up. Don't make us be moronic like you, basically, is what the practical ones are saying. So go out and buy it. In verse 10, aperkomenon they afton agorase, and of their going forth to buy, ilthen o nymphios, the groom came. Ke atimi isilthon met aftu istus gamus, and the ones prepared entered with him unto the wedding feasts. Now, it always has plural for these wedding feasts. Apparently, they're maybe one of the many, maybe one from the bridegroom. I'm not sure on the Jewish customs of marriage enough to go any further into detail than that. And it continues, Ke eklisti e thera, and the door was locked. So they go in where all the people are, the groom and the bride. A door is locked, can't get in. And then 11, isteron they erkonte ke elipe partheni, and afterwards came also the remaining virgins, the 5 moronic virgins that didn't have the oil. Leguse, saying, Kyrie, Kyrie, anixoni mean, open to us. So they've come and they're knocking on the door and telling, open to us. Now, again, I don't know the customs of the marriage, but apparently this is the custom of locking the door and staying in there. In verse 12, it says, O they apokrithis epon, which would be the groom. I would think the master, if it was a groom, it would have been Jesus, said, epon, amen. Now, it might be somebody other than the groom, somebody that's watching the door. And he says, Amen, lego, imin. Amen, I say to you. Now that could be the Father. Uk ida imas, I do not know you, because they have not put on Christ. So we have not, if a person is moronic, and then they have not done the things that they should, that's set for them, and they do not accept Jesus and things that he says to do. And then in 13 it says, Grigorite, be vigilant, and that is our key word, 11:27, being vigilant then. Ote uk idate tin imeran ude tin oran in e o eos tu anthropu erkate, for you know not the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man comes. We don't know when Jesus is going to come. He says in other places is only the Father knows, not even the Son. And we see in Nehemiah 7:3 where Nehemiah says, And I said to them, the gates of Jerusalem shall not be opened until at the same time the sun rises. And while they are still vigilant, let the doors be locked and safeguarded. So the idea of being vigilant, watching for something all the time, and you're something that you're guarding, and you're guarding your eternal destiny. I'm guarding my eternal destiny, putting it on the line, that I have to do this. Otherwise, if I'm not vigilant, then the attack comes and the fall. And in Jeremiah 31:28, God says, And it will be as I was vigilant over them, even to demolish and inflict evil, so I will be vigilant over them to build and to plant, says the Lord. The Lord is always vigilant, always doing what he says, prepared. Daniel 9:14, it says, And the Lord our God was vigilant against the evil, and brought them upon us, these evil things. Then in Matthew 26, our next chapter, it says, Jesus says, Then he says to them, My soul is dejected unto death. Remain here and be vigilant with me. While he's praying, going to the cross. And then in verse 40 of the same chapter, it says, And he comes to his disciples and finds them sleeping. And he says to Peter, So were you not able to be vigilant for 1 hour with me? Being vigilant, Peter failed. They all failed. They fell asleep. And we need to be vigilant. Jesus is bringing this out. If he wasn't bringing this out, then it wouldn't be an issue. We would, if it was like once saved, always saved, you say the sinner's prayer, no matter what you do, you're going to be with Jesus. No, there's so many warnings, and if you don't do these warnings, then the results are not going to be good. In Matthew 26:41, he says, Be vigilant and pray that you should not enter into a test. That was in the Lord's Prayer, for us to be vigilant in prayer and to not enter into a test by either Satan or God. And then in Luke 12:37, Jesus says, Blessed are those servants whom the Lord coming shall find being vigilant. When we are vigilant, it's for a purpose, and that is for when the Lord comes, that we will be blessed. Otherwise, it's going to be bad. 1 Corinthians 16:13 says, Be vigilant. Stand firmly in the belief. Believing in Christ. Stand firmly. Be vigilant of all the things that are going to come against you in an attack. Be vigilant for these things. Don't just go out and think, oh, well, I go to church and so this is great. I'm going to be in heaven with Jesus. No, be vigilant. Colossians 4:2, Paul says, in the prayer, attend constantly, being vigilant in it in thankfulness. So we need to be vigilant also to thank the Lord for all the things that he has given us, mainly the forgiveness of sins through the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, his Son. In Revelation 3:3, it says, "If then you should not be vigilant, I will come upon you as a thief," as Jesus said, "and in no way should you know what hour I will come upon you." So being vigilant, if you knew when he's coming, you would be vigilant because you know, well, Jesus is coming. The last section we went over that. And here it's pretty much the same thing. He's talking about being vigilant, and this is what we are to do. In Revelation 16:15, it says, "Blessed is the one being vigilant, and keeping his garments, that he should not walk naked, and they shall see his indecency." So all these things have to do, going back with Jesus in the last couple of sections, on being prepared for the return of Christ, of which the disciples asked when they came out of the temple and saw the big stones, "When's this all going to happen?" And it's going to happen, but it's not going to happen right away. So if you don't know when it's going to happen, you have to be vigilant all the time. The next section is another parable, which is on the same vein as far as vigilance and doing the things of God, and that is the parable of the talents.